Hello, I'd like to welcome everyone to the next episode of the Unido Talks podcast. And today is a very special podcast. This is the first of what we're calling our Founder Spotlight mini-series, in which we have our founder and CEO, Chris Weddle, joining us today. The point of the discussion today is just to get to know our founders a little bit better and for our community to know who's behind the project that we're all so excited about. So without further ado, the founder and CEO, Chris Weddle. Chris, thank you for joining us today on Unido Talks.
Thanks for having me along, Joe. Great to be here.
So I'd like to just dig in and get to know you a little bit better. And with that, what got you into crypto in general? What was your first introduction into the world of blockchain?
Well, it's going to go back quite a while, and it was kind of low key to begin with. But it was probably around 2013. I was trying to buy something online, and there was this weird thing on the checkout called Bitcoin, and I was thinking, well, what is that? I've heard of it before. What is this thing? And I thought maybe I can use this option and check it out. So I set about trying to get some Bitcoin. In the end, it was a pretty convoluted process. Things were a bit more, I guess, techie, and you had to go through some hops back then. So I ended up not getting the Bitcoin, pulled out my credit card, checked out that way, and I missed the opportunity. But it opened my eyes a little bit. You know, what is this Bitcoin thing? And then it kind of went quiet, and no one was really talking about Bitcoin that much in the wider community around that time. It wasn't until 2016 when things started to really happen, when the profile picked up, and I kind of got back into it at that point.
Well, perhaps it was good you missed out because maybe you missed the Mt. Gox hacks at the time, which I think was one of the leading exchanges that was holding Bitcoin at the time. So maybe you lucked out.
It was one of those what-if things, you know. It's like if I had bought Bitcoin, it was so cheap at the time, I would have been like some of these other blokes that have a lot of holdings and probably bought a whole stash or something because it was worth just so little. And then, you know, left it in the corner and it might have turned into something great. But unfortunately, that pathway wasn't for me at the time. But by the same token, yeah, I probably missed some hacks.
Tell us a little bit more about your background, Chris. When it came to starting Unido, what were some of the experiences in your career that prepared you for launching Unido?
Look, my career goes back quite a long time in software development. We're an Australian-based company. The company had a history of 20 plus years of developing bespoke software solutions. And, you know, we were very successful at that. We developed very early in the web industry. It was a nascent industry at the time. This is going back quite a long time. And, you know, we did all the layers of development right through from the hardware right through to the actual web solution. And it was a lot of fun. And back in those days, in the early days of web, you had to do all the layers. These days, that development is quite different. It's a lot of it's front-end driven. There's a lot of platforms and frameworks. There's cloud hosting, all sorts of things at your disposal. So that's really what you know, my overall history is in days prior to blockchain. It was all about software development. What was intriguing about blockchain and what kind of led us into it was the fact that it was new. It's exciting working with a new technology. It offers so much promise, and it was pretty evident from the very early days that it needed a lot more tools. You know, there was a lot missing. You know, Bitcoin proves a point about the tech. Ethereum came along, and it gave us that programmatical layer. But there were so many user-focused tools that were missing, and that really presented something of an opportunity and generated the interest and excitement to get more involved and throw ourselves in with this industry.
So was it the sort of smart contract capabilities within Ethereum that you sort of connected with as a software developer that was sort of the light bulb switch?
That's a fair comment, yeah. It was really that programmatical ability that really piques your interest, and you start to have that aha moment about all the plethora of things that could be done with this technology. And our initial foray wasn't to come in to build, you know, a wallet tech or self-custody tech. It was to build software solutions that were blockchain centric. You know, we only had the insight a little later on Unido.
So you come from a software development background. What was it that led you to building a wallet to store digital assets and sort of stick a toe into the fintech side of things?
It was about that time in around about 2017 when we started looking very closely at blockchain technology, as I said, realizing that tools were needed. But we didn't really have a firm handle on where the opportunity would really be and what was really needed. We hadn't immersed ourselves that deeply at that point. As we'd always been a company that was doing software development, bespoke software development, we started consulting more on the lines of blockchain custom software development. We picked up some consultancy work and we started immersing ourselves in the tech even more. There was a common theme that came out of it when we were consulting. I mean, the sort of clients we had at the time, they were wanting to leverage blockchain tech for their business, but ultimately they kind of wanted to do a capital raise as well at the end of it. So it always came back to the topic of how are we going to manage our ether, how are we going to manage our tokens, what platforms are available. And they were asking me these questions. And to be honest, there wasn't much on the market. I mean, you either had hardware-driven USB-type wallet solutions that we still have today, or you had hot wallet solutions. Proper custodial services were off the planet and unreachable for these, small and medium-sized businesses. So in the end, what we offered in terms of off-the-shelf was inadequate, and the thing that was really lacking was the governance aspect. I showed one client, I'll use my phone as USB. I said, this is what you're going to be using. And he said, so this is it? Like we put this in the corner or in a safe and then Peter's going to manage that and be our sort of gold guardian? And it was never going to work. And I could see it right there that there wasn't anything available that really solved the problem. So our first response to this was to look at Ethereum multi-signature solutions, and we did put forward these solutions to our clients at the time. Unfortunately, the default interfaces, that Ethereum default interfaces were quite inadequate and difficult to use. So we ended up wrapping up a front end on that, and that made it quite acceptable. It was in that framework. We did a bit of a test and measure with some of the people who were doing OTC work in Sydney. And the feedback was that they loved the solution, easy to use. Multi-signature tech is very robust. They could really see a use case for it. But he did ask me one thing, and that was, can it handle Bitcoin? And can it handle other networks, or is it just Ethereum? And well, the answer was it was Ethereum, of course, only. And as an OTC trader, most of their trades were actually BTC. So that was a moment of early defeat for the project, in that we developed something of a pilot, and then realized that maybe its real world application was actually going to be lacking. You take these heavy blows. We went back. The grey matter was working overtime on what we could do about this. We'd already invested in our pilot program at that point, and we came up as a result of that with Unido as we know it today, which is a multi-party computation solution, takes the concept of one private key and managing that one private key to provide the security and the governance, and ultimately, because it's app-driven, it's ease of use as well. So it ticks all those boxes. Way back to 2017-18, that we knew those features were needed and there wasn't a solution, so we were able to fulfill that with Unido.
So you sort of made this temporary workaround for only Ethereum, and then realizing, hey, we actually need not only multiple chains, but we need some sort of governance layer to administrate over the keys and all of the assets themselves as well.
That's right. So, I mean, our clients were business clients. We didn't come in. I think a key thing about the team at Unido is we didn't come into it primarily from a trader's point of view. We're not, holders of lots of crypto, and we came into it with all the zest of somebody who's trading every day. We came into it from a software developer's point of view, and we were listening to what our clients needed, and we simply wanted to deliver a solution to what we were being asked for. So we came into it to solve that problem, and we were very focused on that. So I guess the purpose of saying that is that if we came into it from a trader's point of view, we might have been more focused on bells and whistles in the app, or maybe some in-app features that do some little, tricks that you use every day as a trader or something like that. We know that would have. And that's where most of these wallets have come from, I think.
I think originally when I stumbled across Unido, I think that was one of the essential elements that I saw very early on was it's not just a wallet, but it's really a product built for holding assets that wasn't readily available on the market at the time and still is not really there to the degree that Unido is building their platform out to be. It's really, really
correct.
It's
I think the key point about the market today, and I find it a little surprising. I mean, this is not a short-term project. It's been in the making for some years now. And it staggers me that still we're in 2022 and still there really aren't other solutions that tick all those boxes that I was just talking about. There are some at the very high end of the market that want to deal with institutions, custodial services and banks and the like. But there's not a whole heap that are looking for, the vast, fat majority of businesses out there, the smaller size businesses, the one or two person micro businesses, all right through to the medium sized businesses. There just aren't solutions out there that cover all of the blockchains, that have it all under the one roof. I guess that's the joy of being in, back to the beginning of our conversation, being in blockchain where everything's still quite new. And, we're catching up, and Unido is positioned as a tool, for what is coming in the near future, which is, broader adoption of these crypto assets.
So it sounds to me like you're saying storing millions of dollars worth of digital assets on a Ledger Nano in a Faraday cage don't cut it for small and medium-sized enterprises.
Well, the thing that bothers people about that sort of approach is it might be cyber secure. You could potentially even say it's physically secure if you really want to go some extreme lengths. But it can't protect against bad behavior. It can't protect if it's a business situation, and let's say, Joe, you and I were in business together, and I was the guy looking after that in my house. I could go rogue. I could get run over by a bus. It's a cliched term, but actually physically that can actually happen as well. And these things happen. We've seen it time and time again in crypto that the weak link is often the operator. So Unido, by virtue of its multi-member tech, can completely overcome that for a business and make sure those funds don't disappear with a member of the team. And hey, it's always sad to lose a member of the team for whatever reason that may be. But, participants in a business, shareholders in a business, they need to know that they've got continuity as well at the same time. So the governance is a big part of what we do. Security, you can sort of cobble it together on the hardware side of it. But as I said, there's always that human weak link.
Now, let's dive into the governance a little bit more. There's something really specific and unique about Unido, which is the multi-party computation that's actually built within the protocol itself. Could you touch a little bit about how that works?
I'll give you the brief version. So it's like we could describe it by taking a private key and multiplying that private key out to a very large series of digits, and then effectively, in simplistic terms, distributing fragments of that key amongst members of the wallet. Those fragments are not held centrally by us. They're distributed amongst the members using their mobile devices. So users of Unido will notice that whilst you can sign up and access online using your browser, you won't be able to do a transaction unless you actually tie in your mobile phone. It's a way of us keeping everything separate and away from a centralized store. So effectively, we take the key, we multiply it out to make sure there are an adequate number of digits in case there are a lot of members in a wallet. I mean, we could have up to, last count was up to 22 members. That would be a little extreme, but it can be done in Unido. Those users then, it's a decentralized ownership of the key amongst the members. And in fundamental terms, when we want to carry out a transaction, and bearing in mind a transaction could be that you're wanting to send some funds, but it could also be that you want to remove a member from a wallet or you want to add a new member to a wallet. All the members need to sign on those events, and that's when the various fragments will come together, and there'll be a signing event if the members want that action to pass, if they want to vote for it effectively. So there's the nuts and bolts of how Unido works, but one key feature is that, I might be repeating myself here, but I think the key feature here is that we do not have the the private key at Unido. We don't want the private key. We're a software provider, and this is a Unido EP, in that flavor at least, is a self-custodial solution. So that key again is distributed, and it's only formed when the payload is sent for signing.
And as far as I know, Unido is the only protocol that actually has the key broken up in the way that you explained, as far as I know.
Well, actually, Joe, I hope that's the case, because we do have a patent on that concept. So just let me know if there's anybody else that is doing it in the same way.
I'll be sure to keep my eyes peeled in case there's any copycats out there.
Actually, let me give you a better answer to that question. There are some other parties out there who use a similar concept, and this is the broad concept of MPC, or multi-party computation. We developed this quite independently, not realizing this is a concept that goes back to the 70s in cryptography. It's not unique to cryptocurrencies at all. It's a cryptographic concept. It's only after we developed, when you think about it, it's quite logical, right? If you can't use multi-signature, then maybe you can play with a key. And that's exactly what we did. And so it's not surprising that it seems there are some other solutions that have emerged that were developed in isolation to us, and I think neither party aware of the other. One of our notable, we'll call them complementary competitors in this space is Fireblocks. They have quite a big market cap, and they're using a multi-party computational process in their network. Back to what you said before, I think their execution would be different. You can sort of you can build something with a very similar outcome, and the implementation and the mechanics and the algorithms can be different in terms of your implementation. I think that's the landscape as we see it. But there's not many providers out there that have executed a solution in this way. It's not the easiest pathway. There are others that sort of look like Unido on the outside, like a very easy to use shiny box where all your crypto management can happen. But they're using multi-signature tech, which is like outsourcing that. And there are some issues in that in terms of overhead, in terms of key management. There's more fragmentation. So we think that Unido and multi-party computation is a superior solution, and it's the right way to go, given that we want ease of use and we want strong workflows and governance, and we still want to have that security. And
the wallets can be designed to have from 1 to, as you said, 22 signers if you would wish, right? So it's either, you can set it up however you'd like, right?
Well, that's right. They're very configurable. So a quick user guide here on the core of Unido. It's definitely all about the multi-member, multi-signature construct. That is a unique selling proposition for Unido, effectively. There are wallets out there, single user wallets that have some great bells and whistles, and they're good wallets, but they don't have this governance feature. And for Unido, how that works effectively is you take a wallet, any wallet, could be a Bitcoin wallet, Ripple wallet, Dash wallet, Dogecoin wallet, whatever's in vogue, and you can have up to those 22 members in a wallet. So what that really means is that you're adding extra people who can view the wallet, who can sign a transaction on the wallet when they're a member. And then once you've added your members, you can choose how many of those members, as a minimum, need to sign for an action to pass through. So let's say we go to our extreme 22 member wallet scenario, and that is super extreme. But anyway, we might say, well, we're not going to make it 22 out of 22, because if Johnny gets run over by a bus, then we don't have enough signers to add a new member, to sign anything, to move any funds. There's a risk in that. But we are going to have, let's say, 18 out of 22. That's a fair majority right there. And there's a bit of redundancy. So if people are on holiday, away, let's not be so morbid for a second. People would just be like out of action because of holiday, right? Then you can still do business. You can still pass things through. More realistically, of course, in business, we'd be talking like maybe a 4-member wallet, or like a board of directors, right? 4 or 5 people, something like that. And that means that anybody of that group can set up a transaction if we're talking about sending funds. And you would need, say in a 3 out of 5 scenario, you'd need 3 of those people to sign. The other 2 don't have to do anything, and it will pass through. If only two sign and nobody else ever signs, that transaction will not pass through. You have a bit of oversight this way, and you have some governance. And we have normal stuff, like things like notifications. So even if you're not going to sign the transaction, you get notified that, this much Ripple is being sent to this recipient at this address, and this is why, and do you want to approve it? You don't actually have to participate. You might be the guy that's the sort of the reserve fellow that doesn't actually do that. But at least you have visibility and you can see what's going on in your business.
Awesome. So let's go back to 2016, 2017, shortly after you discover, hey, there's this problem in the marketplace around governance and being able to accommodate multiple chains. I'm going to start up Unido. How did you go about meeting Michael and Ben and connecting with them and sort of spearheading this project? How did that connection play out?
Well, at that time in the business, we'd been through the, I was talking earlier about the pilot phase, and we began to then invent the NPC side of it, and we really knew we were onto something, and this was going to be something we wanted to build out. This was the future. For me, personally, this was a big pivot. I'd spent most of my entire career anyway in custom software development. I wanted to change. I wanted to go into something that was scalable. And singular that we could really get deep into. So it was a case of realizing that we needed to really build the team. We needed to scale up. At that point, it was me and it was developers in the business. We didn't have a marketing expert, we didn't have a finance expert and other experts in the business. And this was a tool that was going to need some careful positioning. It was a tool that was going to need some understanding of the financial services arena, and those aren't areas that I've spent my life working in. So I was keen to meet new people who could join this venture and come along for the ride. And so I was quite proactive in reaching out to Ben and Michael. I met many people as candidates to join the team. Ben Hunter, CMO of Unido, a fantastic fit for our team. He'd just worked with a listed company. He'd worked with that company since before they were listed. So he effectively took them on a bit of a ride in terms of marketing, helped build that enterprise. He exited that company and was looking for a new opportunity. So it was a great fit with Ben. And we're talking about taking something new and building it and promoting it. So I think it went very well with, his work experience. And then Michael, we really did need somebody who understood financial markets. I really wanted someone for the banking sector because, as you know, Joe, there's Unido EP, which is designed for any enterprise, retail investors, right through to medium size, even large businesses. It's a self-custodial solution. But we also have Unido Insto, which is designed for institutions. Think of it as like a customized white label version of Unido EP. And so to take that product and set it up and be ready for the banking sector, we needed someone who understood those markets. I met Michael, we gelled. It's a time in his career when he was looking for a bit of a change. He's worked with, in finance extensively, ex-Goldman Sachs, and he had the right credentials. So I was very happy to be working with Ben and Michael, covering all those bases. So, with my background in software development and generally running business, and Ben coming in for the marketing side of it, and Michael coming in for the finance side of it, we then had a very skilled up team, executive team, ready to launch Unido globally.
So we sort of had the trifecta. We had you with the tech software side, we have Michael with the finance regulatory angle, and we have Ben to really push it out with marketing.
Absolutely. And we're awesome. A great team together, and we've obviously built out a bit then in terms of the team overall, but those fundamentals have worked very well for Unido.
So this next question maybe would be better suited for Michael, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. When it comes to regulation around digital assets, cryptocurrency, blockchain, what are some of the pivotal elements that need to come into play for adoption to really go mainstream? I know it's been a big year last year with adoption, but there's still quite a ways to go. What do you see as some really important regulations that need to come out to push this along?
I think the easiest answer to your question is got to be looking back. I mean, we're in sort of May 22 here, right? And we've just been through the Luna and USD, upset. Just being kind, calling it just an upset, right?
Very kind.
But it highlights and underscores the need for some regulation to be in this space. That frankly should never have happened. And there you go. People are trusting the algorithm. They're trusting the tech. They're, placing, in some cases, their life savings in trust, and only to lose it all. It's really, it's unacceptable to a personal level, and also for the whole industry to grow and be reliable. Obviously, that there's shockwaves throughout the industry because of that. So it's not just individuals suffering; everybody suffers to some degree. And this is the sort of thing that does need to be looked at. My hope is that the regulation doesn't reach too far and it doesn't become too onerous for, new tokens, coins, and tech to enter the market, because, we need that free and easy innovation to occur. And I think that's super important. Obviously, there is, there's eyes on that at the moment in the US particularly, and other jurisdictions will probably follow with their, desire to regulate some coins in particular, probably starting with stable coins. Look, I think most players in this space, recognize that regulation is needed. If this is going to grow, if it's going to continue to attract people, if it's going to bring in even larger sums of institutional money, then regulation is a good thing. I would like to think that, at least on the decentralized side of things, when people trade through, outside of the main network, on decentralized exchanges and things like that can still happen. I mean, we're faced with a world now where we've got, we're looking at centrally issued digital currencies coming our way. We're looking at cash being killed off. We're looking at, to be honest, certain infringements on personal freedoms, and I don't think that's a good thing. I think that, Bitcoin type technology is a good counter to that, and I hope that freedom remains at some level in the crypto industry, whilst balancing out a bit with some regulation where it's needed on some of the major assets like these stable coins. I mean, it is quite ridiculous, right? And everyone would be nervous at the moment looking at something like not to try and create any fear in the community, but I mean, if you think about it, with some other stable coins out there, what actually is behind them? Do we know for sure what's behind them? And in most cases, but not all, but in most cases, the answer might be not really. We just sort of listen to what somebody's saying and think, oh, good, they've got all the money in a bank somewhere.
Right.
But, some fundamental auditing and checks and balances would be more than welcome.
Yeah. As much as we want crypto to be the Wild West, you need a little bit of rule of law just to ensure there's freedom and safety for everybody that's settling in the West. We got to have some sort of structure there.
That's right. I mean, when you look at things like, let's look at DeFi for a moment. I mean, some of the investment type DeFi networks where you can get a yield on your ETH or some other asset. I mean, we've seen that algos can go bad, right? That contracts can go bad in this USD scenario. It just forces people to look at DeFi and begin to question. Is this reliable? We know there's certain hacking risks. Now maybe there's an algorithmic risk as well that exists here. So we don't want that sort of hesitation. That's the point. We want people just to leap in, to be super enthusiastic, to trust in the tech, to trust in the fact that there's some sort of oversight, regulatory oversight, and therefore their funds are safe. That'd be a nice place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So Unido was started around 2017, which was actually right at the end of the last bull run, entering into what is known as a crypto winter. We're now approaching into a bear market in crypto currently. What are some things that you learned through the previous bear cycle that, whether it's a mindset or if it's a way to go forward through these difficult times, what are some things you've learned through the previous cycles?
Well, I mean, look, it's interesting, isn't it? When we were developing the very early version of Unido back at that time, we weren't a company that was dealing much in crypto. So on the one hand, I could say that we weren't adversely affected. We weren't, holding a lot of crypto assets, and we had to really suffer and bleed out on that. We were a conventionally funded company at that point in time, and we didn't have to suffer that. But we were certainly there to observe the carnage and observe the damage. And those early clients that I mentioned, we were doing some consulting work with. Most of those projects, lost their way at that point because the idea of launching a new ecosystem, blockchain-powered ecosystem in that winter just simply wasn't tenable. So, the effects were far-ranging, even to a company like us that was on the sort of fringe at that time, being more conventionally funded. We still saw, what happens at a crypto winter. So, like all of these things, you observe, you live through it and you learn. And coming into it this time around, I mean, it'd be nice if things kept going forward, but you just have to keep your chin up at the end of the day, because the fact is that crypto is extremely volatile. We know that. We've seen it. You just look at the charts. Anyone can do that, and take heed of what happened in the past. There's always a comeback, and there'll always be these doom and gloom sayers who are talking about the end of Bitcoin. It's never going to bounce back. It's going to be flat forever, and the rest of it. But if you believe in the use case for these open cryptos like Bitcoin and so on, and you believe in the economics of the coin, then how can it do anything other than go up in value over time? Of course, the X factor is, well, when and how much by. Like, no one really knows that, of course. But I do believe in what the previous winter has taught us is that it will come back. It will come back hard. So batten down your hatches, be lean. Stick it out, and there'll be the crypto winter will turn into crypto spring, and away we go. And I think that's in business, that's something that crypto-centric business would need to take note of. Is don't run an organization where everything's leased and high powered and kind of big office space and everything else, and with high overheads, because it can change really quickly. And you don't want to be caught out with that. You need a lean operation, always a lean operation. That's my 2 cents worth, Joe,
I think that's some good advice. It's like the projects with solid fundamentals that solve for real problems. They're going to have a seat at the table in the future. Maybe not every dog coin is going to make it, but certainly projects with real utility behind them are going to stand the test of time.
Yeah, I think so. There's always going to be enough interest, even in a bear market or crypto winter. There's still going to be interest. There's still going to be ways you can get funding if you are relevant at the end of the day, because the longer term investors out there understand exactly the same thing. They understand that these winters, they end, and that there'll be a boom time, and that crypto adoption is going to happen big time. They understand all that, and whether it's 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, whatever, it'll happen. And so you're absolutely right. The fundamentals are what are the difference between a project that's going to stay in the game during crypto winter and one that's just going to kind of be exposed for what it is, and the interest is lost and they'll never come back.
Behind the scenes, what are you seeing these small and medium-sized enterprises? What are they gravitating towards? What are they looking for in a product? Is it really the governance structure of it? Is it the multi-sig aspect of the wallet? I know that they're just now starting to really enter on a mass scale, and they're doing it slowly because we know institutions move much slower than retail investors do for their own security. Where do you see those problems that they're needing answered the most?
You know, I think there's a range of things, and it starts with, how do I get crypto, and how do I then manage that crypto? And what businesses don't want is they don't want a fragmented kind of layout. Like, again, let's go back and compare the individual, right? I could have like a Trezor, and I could have like a few hot wallets, and I could have, a few different solutions, MetaMask and so on. And it wouldn't really matter, I mean, it's all in my brain. I know where stuff is. There's a certain risk in terms of, being able to pass that along to the next person, but that's a different proposition. And most of us, we're always like, right, not many of us back up our phones, right? It never happened to us, so, that's the way we are as individuals. Businesses, again, quite different. It's essential that you closely monitor your funds. It is imperative that they are secure, obviously. But one of the most important things is the overview of what you have. Now, it's pretty hard as a business to think, now I've got my MetaMask wallet there, I've got like half a dozen accounts there, over there, now I've got a hardware device. If it's all over the place, you can never get a clean picture. Plus, you might end up different people managing different private keys and different accounts. And pretty soon, you're in a situation where you can literally forget that you have a particular wallet, how you access that wallet, where the funds are. You can make a DeFi investment and forget that you made it because it's off the radar of that wallet. So, keeping a handle, having a dashboard of what you have in this space and having it all under the one platform is important, and businesses are absolutely looking for that. They don't want to use a lot of tools. Think of the normal non-crypto world, like you usually have for a business, just one bank that looks after your accounts. You normally have one accounting system. You have bits of software that do things, maybe one project management system. You don't have multiple different types of each of these. It would just be simply too hard to manage. And what we're talking about here is no different. So a software solution that ticks all the boxes is really what's needed. The overview of company funds at various levels. I mean, obviously, then you're talking different overviews for different people, high-level management, mid-level management, different views, different functions. Those are all the fundamentals of what businesses need in this space. And then onto the governance side of it, and we've already talked about that, super important to have that governance in place. So it's all good and well to have all of those things, but if there's a governance mechanism that is not secure in its implementation, I mean, by which I mean, you could do something quite flimsy and centrally, but it simply wouldn't be secure enough, then, that would be a no-go as well. So a properly implemented, highly secure governance mechanism that can't be circumvented even centrally is very important. And hence, of course, that's our focus with Unido, is to bring all of those things together in one software platform.
And I know we've talked briefly about this previously, but one product that really excites me about Unido is the DeFi Vault, which more or less is a dashboard for your investments into decentralized exchanges and that sort of thing. Could you touch a little bit about the DeFi Vault?
Yeah, some of our early adopters of Unido would have seen some of this in the legacy, what is now legacy version of the Unido app, where we integrated with the Moonstake. And to talk you through what that looked like at the time, within the framework of Unido, you could take some funds, some Tezos actually, and stake it into the Moonstake network and get a yield from that. And it was all managed from within our interface in Unido. Super easy workflow to follow, all GUI driven, didn't have to step outside of the network, no connecting your wallet anywhere else, all within the app. So our vision with the DeFi Vault, which is as you know, Joe, we've recently reinvigorated Unido, and we've now got a web platform. So Moonstake isn't now a feature of that platform, but it will come back in another form, in the DeFi Vault form, a bit later. So what does that look like? What we're heading towards is, firstly, we're going to have a tracking mechanism. I was just talking before about how you could, as a company, literally forget where you put funds. I mean, I could think, today I'm going to put, 5 ETH into Aave. And if I had to move that outside of Unido and go through a different process, and it wasn't on my dashboard, to an extent, the grey matter will keep up with it. But if you're doing this every day, amongst different networks, how do you really keep track? So What we're going to do is have a system that allows you to track from under the banner of Unido within the software where your funds are. So if it has gone outside of your wallet, say you've got a Unido wallet and you put some funds into a network, a DeFi network, you'll still see those funds. They won't be strictly in your wallet at that point in time, but you will know that those funds are lodged into a particular DeFi network. So you can actually see, firstly, your whole portfolio, because there's still value in those funds, so it's added up to your whole company picture. Plus, you haven't lost track of it. You can see what it's doing, and you can access it at any time. So again, it's that bringing everything together under the one banner. Our first foray is going to be leveraging Wallet Connect in the new platform. That is a feature, a bit of a hot tip here for people watching this podcast. Wallet Connect will be released very soon, and of course that brings a huge amount of utility for Unido because you can now do things like swaps on DEXs straight from Unido, as well as potentially put funds in a DeFi network. So that's coming soon. Once we release that, we're going to start building out some of these extra views on the DeFi Vault side of it so that businesses can track their funds. There's a high likelihood, although it will be partner and project dependent, that we might have a little more of a end-to-end experience within the app with selected DeFi networks. In other words, that you won't need to use Wallet Connect at all. You'll just go in natively through the app and then make some deposits and transactions to your DeFi network from within Unido itself. But that's not something we'll put on our timeline just yet. But these are the things that we're looking at in the future.
That's incredible. That sort of answered my next question, which was what are the new developments coming? But you really rounded it out with that, because I know it can get really confusing with all the different staking pools you can participate in and the different trading pairs. It can add up to 10, 20, even more. And it's definitely an easy thing to forget. Hey, 2 years ago I staked in this liquidity pool and I've totally forgotten, or staking stable coins and forgot which protocol it was on.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, the more that you do and the more your funds are in various wallets and all over the place, the more likely it is that something will slip through the woodwork and you lose touch with it. So, yeah, we're very keen to provide a solution that caters for that side of it and avoids that from happening. Awesome. The other things, just to elaborate a little on what's in the pipeline, the next things that users of Unido will notice and will be released are a swap system from within the app. And the other thing that's coming, which we're very excited about, and there'll be some more sneak previews coming out shortly on this, is the what we call the business admin portal. That's just our internal name at the moment. It's a pretty boring name. But what it really means is that there's a dedicated structure within Unido where you can define your business. You can define and strictly control exactly what wallets your business have, and that the administration group is quite separate, who sets that up, is quite separate to the operating group that sets up transactions and signs transactions. And this is just an enhancement to the governance we already have. So at the moment we have a kind of a voting system. You have members and you have signatories. That still exists, but now we're going to add an administration group as well, so that the administrators, the board or the execs or whatever of a company can have a kind of separate view and have very tight control over which wallets are legitimate for the company, and also have a very close eye on who is invited to each wallet, and more granular workflow around groups and permissions within the app. So instead of being you're a member, so you can set up a transaction, you can vote. Now you can be someone who only views a wallet and has no permissions, perhaps, or somebody who can only sign a transaction but can't actually add or remove a member at all, has no rights to do that in the system. So much more granular control coming for Unido soon.
That's awesome. So you could have your accounting department be fully aware of where the funds are allocated, but they may not be able to sign off on moving those funds.
Absolutely. And there are other tools. I won't elaborate on them now, but there's a lot of tools in that system that are coming to enhance overall governance and administration and workflows. So yeah, all of those things plus more coming soon.
Awesome. Well, Chris, last question. What do you do for fun when you're not working on Unido? What hobbies, or what do you do to just cut loose when you're not running a startup?
I can talk more easily about what I used to do, because this project is keeping me pretty busy, honestly, Joe. But what I would like to get back into is a bit of motorsport. I used to get out there in a little Lotus Exige, which is a British sports car, and build around the racetrack. And it was great fun. It sure takes a bit of time. If you're going to do a race weekend, you need to plan that well in advance. And that's been the showstopper for me this last couple of years as we build and launch Unido. But look, I get out whenever I can, closer to home, things that don't require so much time. Weather's pretty dreary out there now. It's winter here in Australia, but in the summertime when it's cracking weather, the beach is a must-go for me, and a bit of fishing if I can, and a bit of boating. So I look forward to that. Aside from that, some walks. I reckon you've got to keep fit. We spend far too much time in front of the screen, in front of the computer these days. And if it wasn't for the gym that's close by here and, getting out and walking, I don't think I'd be in very good shape. So I've always been a gym goer and, I enjoy it. I enjoy keeping up with it. So yeah, keeping fit in the meantime, down the beach and maybe one day some more motorsport. Let's see how we go.
Well, maybe one day Unido will sponsor their own NASCAR. You never know.
That'd be nice. if you could drive for me, Joe.
Oh, no, not me. I'd be terrible. Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time. I feel like this was a great interview and is an awesome thing to be able to share with our community and just keep them up to date with what's coming and new updates and exciting things to look forward to. So I really appreciate this interview.
Hey, Joe, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Awesome. Well, that's it, Unidoers, and we will be back, so stay tuned. Bye, everybody.